I'd say that I drive best in rally when I'm in what they call the flow state. That's when you're just super locked in. Like everything you do feels effortless. There's nothing else in your mind except for the right now, the immediate moment. And you become one with the machine. There's a sense of harmony, and it's the most incredible feeling because you're in the zone and nothing can take you out of it. Your mind is in the right place, everything's clicking, and you just feel like you're flying.
Into 6 left and flat 5 right plus, left over 50, 5 right, braking 40, lead 4 left minus.
And in rally, and when you're always like pushing to the limits, you want to find what's possible, you know, with the machine you have, the tires you have, what you're driving on, and you really are always testing and getting closer and closer to the limit. And when you're on it, there's this amazing sweet feeling of just things clicking and going your way. But you got to be careful, because sometimes you can go over the limit. Before Rally Star and before qualifying for the Zwartkorps Continental Final for Rally Star, we actually got into this whole thing through a simulator. And it was like, it started off as a hobby, playing on the sim. Me and my dad, we built our own simulator out of wood, and built like a really cool setup, and just played lots of circuits as well as rally. But I always just, naturally enjoyed the rally a lot more, found it that challenge of it was just something that excited me, and I really enjoyed that. And then one day, my dad got a mail from Motorsport South Africa explaining this whole Rally Star worldwide young driver talent search, looking for raw talent, and that to enter this thing, to win a seat to rally across Europe, you actually didn't have to have any prior experience rallying. And I've always thought rally is like the coolest thing ever, but obviously rally is such an expensive sport that you can't just go and get involved, and you're going against the entire world. Basically what your goal is that you want to be the fastest driver in your continent, and then in doing so you would get a seat at the continental final to prove your talent in a real life environment, in a cross kart. So that's where we started. Okay, I was pushing to be the fastest African on this game, and I was like really, really close, and I actually ended up being the second fastest African, and the fastest South African. I was absolutely flying, like really, really moving, and on the second last corner, I made a mistake and went off the road, had to reverse a bit and then go back onto the road, and I lost by half a second and came second. You had to win the thing to get the ticket to the South African final there. Went to another sim event, the last sim event in South Africa, and did the exact same thing. Just pushing too hard and had the pace, but just literally just before the flying finish, I put the car into a ditch and came out and lost a second and came second again. And I was just like, I could not believe it, because the pace was there, And I thought I was out of this whole entire Rally Star talent search. About a month later or so, I was just sitting on the couch here, and I got an email from Motorsport South Africa saying like you've been selected as our wild card to go to the South African final, where you can prove yourself to see if you can make it to the African final. And I just started like whooping on the couch, like everyone was like, what's going on, and I just could not believe it that I had another shot at this thing. Then went up to Zwartkorps. We did like a karting, simulator work, interviews. Basically they did like a whole assessment of us and picked 12 South Africans out of like a whole bunch that were there to go to the African final, and I made the cut. We were driving a cross kart, which is like a small buggy with a 700cc superbike engine. So in the 3-day event, I go in, I'm the wild card, I'm the underdog, and all the guys know me as the motocross guy, because everyone else there had come from like racing, polo cup, karting, rally, like 4-wheel background, whereas I came from bikes. And within the first day, like at the end of the day, out of 30 guys, I was 4th overall. And I was just like, no way. It's like, I was like, I can really do this, and I will do this. And I made it in my mind that there was no other option in my head. You know, I was literally saying to myself, like, I will win, I will win, I will win. Like it was the only option that I had. And going into the next day, like, big elimination day, and was absolutely dialed in this car, loving it, so in the zone, in the flow, and then was 2nd fastest overall. And like lots of the guys were maybe struggling a bit with the pressure there, because, you know, the prize that you're going to win is just life-changing. And I just was going back in my head, and I was just saying, okay, like, just remember motocross. Remember those motocross starts, the pack grids, you know, guys everywhere at your sides, bashing your elbows and engines revving. Like, just chill, you know, you got this, just drive. And I went through and I did exactly that, you know, just limited mistakes, kept it smooth, kept it clean, kept it fast. After all of this assessing, we were all lined up with the jury of judges, and they were announcing the winner, you know. And yeah, I'm there, I'm not knowing if it's me or who it is or what, because they weren't actually just looking for the fastest driver. They were looking for like a well-rounded individual that has progressed throughout like the whole event and gelled well with the mechanics, things that they weren't even telling us they were looking for, you know.
The winner is Max.
It's a dream come true, eh? It is a dream come true. I'm honestly shocked, and I believed in myself going into this event, and I'm so keen to work with the Rally Star team and represent SA. It's amazing. I'm out of words.
Talent has to get put into the right environment for skill to come out of it, for the development skill. Because of that, when Max went to to South Africa, 2 things stood out. And I wasn't in South Africa at the selection event, but I was speaking to those who were there. And the first one was his sheer motivation. You know, the determination. And that is something that you really need to have in motorsport, because to progress in motorsport and any sport, it's a rocky road. You have setbacks, you have failures, and it's how you come back from failure that makes the super champion, as opposed to just someone who's just a good driver.
So winning the African Continental Final of Rally Star means that you get a fully funded seat in a M for Poland Fiesta Rally 3 in Europe, doing 6 rallies, as well as like a intensive training camp at the beginning of the season. They were looking out of that wide search that they'd done, out of the people that they've chosen, who's going to progress the most, who's got the most potential, and then they were putting those drivers through to the Junior World Championship.
Welcome, Max. How you feel yourself?
Yeah, great. It's amazing to be here. Super excited to be in Estonia.
Of course, this is the first time here in Estonia. How many times you have traveled in these kind of roads?
Probably actually only once. Yeah, and nothing quite like this. So yeah, it's going to be a really cool weekend. I'll learn lots. You know?
And the goal is to come to the podium, finish podium.
We'll see. Let's keep a clean rally and see where we end up.
Okay, see you tomorrow.
Cool.
Good luck. Zit er daar wat siis. Ja, nee, dat is.
So I actually, you know, grew up on bikes and around bikes from probably before I could even walk. My dad is like a huge bike lover. He grew up with that love inside of him. And yeah, from when I was tiny, I was literally getting taught throttle control, riding in the streets of my neighborhood on like a moped, scooter. And yeah, my dad was teaching me all those things from such a tiny age, and I was physically riding that bike with my mom and my dad on the back.
Okay, let's both jump on. All right, hold properly. Okay, okay, go forward, fast. Go, fast. She is driving on his own.
And then eventually that progressed to having my own little peewee from the age of like 4 years old. Riding that thing around the garden, like just until I ran out of petrol, filling it up, riding again. And then from there, got older and got bigger bikes and eventually got into racing motocross, which was when I was in high school, and absolutely loved that. Loved, trying to get better at something. So I think it taught me lots.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. I mean, I've always loved motorcycles, two wheels, whether it's off-road or on-road, I've done it all. But Max, you know, when we got him his first little motorbike with the two wheels at the back and the one wheel on the front, he was already flying around the house, skidding. I had a little BWS scooter, and I've put Max in front of me on it, and I taught him how to do the throttle. And before you knew it, he was going up and down the road with me on the back with my arms crossed at, 3 years old? Two? Not even two. Yeah, 2 years old. And he had full control of the throttle. And still today, it is his passion. So in between rallies, he's obviously, you know, he raced motocross. He has got a motocross bike. And when he comes home from rallies and that, the first thing he does is he takes the motocross bike to the track and he hits the track. And he's very, very good at it. He's a natural on two wheels.
Yeah, so for me, motocross, it helps rally in ways of, you know, feeling what the car is doing, because on the bike, you're constantly feeling what's underneath you, where you're putting your tires, and also if your tires are like moving around underneath the bike and then the bike's moving quite a bit, then that's very similar to what actually happens in the rally car. And to be comfortable with the machine moving underneath you like that is actually super important. And in the beginning, like in rally, like you can feel like a bit disturbed with the car, like out of control a bit. But when you get into it, and it's the same as the bike, then when the car is sliding and out of control in a way, it's in your control. And I feel that like when I ride, it keeps that part of me really sharp, and that sense of what the machine is doing in my control is heightened. So yeah, I really feel that it does help in that way. 2023, my first season ever driving rally. I drove a rally car for the first time like only 2 months before the training camp where everything started in the Rally Star program. Basically, our training camp was held in Sardinia, which is an island just below Italy. We got to grips there with the Rally 3 on both tarmac and gravel. We had a test day on each. We learned about like all the new things that are in rally to us, you know, like making pace notes. Like first time meeting the whole team, first time meeting the mechanics. So yeah, at the end of the training camp, we actually did our first JWRC recce, which is where you make the pace notes for an event. And we did the recce for the Rally Italia Sardinia 2023. Which was amazing because like a WRC recce is really demanding, like in general, but especially on your mind when you're like new to making pace notes, and everything is like a conscious effort. So yeah, I mean like 2 days of full on driving around this island and making pace notes for like 360 kilometers of stages is a real challenge when you've literally just learned how to make pace notes. You've just been working pace notes for the first time. So that was a big learning curve. After that, 2 weeks later, we had our first rally lined up. It was the San Marino rally. First time ever rallying. We had a great pre-event test, but basically this rally had a bit of a rough start for me. So on my third run of the shakedown, I actually clipped a rut on the inside of a corner, and it bounced the rear of the car up in the air and put me into an oversteer, and eventually had like a slow roll over a bank and then roll down a hill.
Shit. Oh, fuck. Fuck. I'm shit. I'm sorry, dude. Oh, for fuck's sakes. You okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Knock off the power.
And this was my, like I don't know, baptism of fire to get into rally. So yeah, first event ever. That moment made me feel so stressed. We got back and the M Sport Poland mechanics were machines. They got that car looking pretty much like brand new within 2 hours. I had taken a big confidence knock from that, and going into the rally, like where it's also your first rally, first time driving stages, like flat out, just to pace notes. And to do that straight after having an incident or a crash, you know, is actually, it's pretty tricky when you don't have the experience. By the end, the final stage of the rally was actually where I was feeling like, okay, I'm actually feeling this now, you know. The notes were clicking. They were just painting a picture in my head and it's describing the road ahead and that sort of thing. And that's where we finished the rally, which was really good. And we actually, it was a tricky rally. I mean, Flip, only 3 out of the 6 crews finished this rally out of Rally Star. From San Marino, finishing that rally, you know, finishing it on a good note, going into the next challenge, which was my first tarmac event, and tarmac is like notoriously tricky in rally, and that's due to the road getting dirty from cutting corners. And when people cut, it's you basically putting 2 wheels off the road, and that throws a whole bunch of gravel and mud if it's wet onto the road, and basically leaves just one single clean line for your outer tires, and the other one's in the cut. And you have to be really precise on putting that outer tire in that clean line that is sometimes literally only a tire width big. On one of our, I think it was like our 7th run of the day, so later in the day, came into a downhill left-hander with the cut and just put my outside wheels like probably 10-15 centimeters off the clean line. We actually slid off the road and rolled and hit a tree and had a pretty bad crash and bent the roll cage of the car. Once again, you're trying to have a really good first impression to this team that's really put in so much into you. And to do that, I actually could not believe that I had done that. It was actually a destroying moment. Really, really tough moment. So chatted to the team and we discussed to go back to basics and do like a training program that's going to start from the super base level of driving. I actually got picked up at that moment by Brian Cameron from ESP, Elite Sports Performance, and he contacted me and he was like, what you're doing in a rally car already, even though you've had a rough start, like shouldn't be possible for the experience that you have. You shouldn't be able to drive a car like that just without even driving. And he was like, I'm willing to help you, and like almost take down my wing and come do a training program with me in the UK.
Now Max had got huge amounts of talent, and we could see that from the selection events. And not only the talent, but the motivation to put the effort and the work in to convert that talent to skill. But there was no mechanism by which to do that. So as soon as we had the call from the FIA to say, look, we've got this driver, 2 big accidents, big repair bills, can't insure him to do any more events, need to do something with them. What can you offer? It was kind of like, let's go back and let's see what basics we need to understand in terms of his performance and development.
Yeah, we set to that, and it actually became like a bit of like a 2-3 month program where I headed over to the UK, bought a left-hand drive car that side to get used to driving a left-hand drive car and not having that cognitive like space used in my brain of computing right-hand drive to left-hand drive, because in South Africa we drive right-hand drive cars, and in rally you have to space to the centimeter. So left-hand drive car we bought. We did like full-on base training on learning the weight transfer of the car, the friction circles, and like how to put in inputs to make the car react and that sort of thing. And it was actually incredible in that I actually changed co-driver to Cameron Fair and started working with him on the Isle of Mull in Scotland, where together we made pace notes on these amazing island roads.
So I first met Max on the Isle of Mull in Scotland. He came over and stayed for a few weeks, and we first broke down like what he learnt so far, and I think we soon quickly learned that he was trying to kind of sprint before he could walk. So we brought it right back to the basics and just started with the angle of the corner and left everything else. And we've done this for maybe 2, 3, 4 days, and then brought it in, okay, a wee bit more detail. Well, that's a bit more detail. So I just came off a massive crash, which put me in hospital for a few days before I sat in the car with Max. So with Max's history and what had happened to me recently, I was quite apprehensive. But yeah, we soon got in the car and got into a rhythm, into a groove.
Left over 50, short 4 right, brow 4 right, left over 50.
It's in rallying, it's really important to obviously get on very well, because you spend, weeks upon weeks with your driver, and quite often you're in the same car and on the same flight in the same room, and if you don't get on with the person, it's not going to work. But yeah, Max and I got on really well. I think we kind of bounced off each other, which is quite good. He's quite a chilled out character outside the rally. You know, he's quite laughable and like fun to be around. There's always, you know, a bit of banter floating around. But yeah, he's very active, and a pinball machine is probably the best way to describe Max outside the rally.
2 months passed by there, and then cool. It was time to get back to the Rally Star crew, and that was in Estonia. And now it's time to put everything that you've learned to use, you know, and to do it in a consistent way to be able to transfer that knowledge to the Fiesta Rally 3. So you get to the rally, and instantly you can feel like I felt like, geez, like I felt like there wasn't much trust on me as a driver because I just rolled 2 cars, you know, which is completely understandable. And I felt that there was a bit of pressure to keep it clean and not make any mistakes this rally. I just wanted to be perfect and keep the car in like 100% condition from start to finish of the rally. And we got through, and we did exactly that. We kept it clean and got through, and the pace was getting better throughout the whole event, and we finished on a positive note there. Then was Rally Rack in Spain, and this time I wanted to not just focus on getting through and keeping it clean. I wanted to actually, you know, push a bit and see what I'm capable of. And within the first day, we were setting the 4th fastest, you know. So it was really, really great to see that like improvement. Eventually, I actually kept it up to then finish 2nd in that rally, which was incredible, you know. And the driving through that was impressive, and also super clean. The car was in perfect condition by the end of the rally, and so everything went super well there. My family was there to watch. It was a special rally. That was good, and it was looking really good for the team because, you know, obviously in all of this, we're ultimately fighting for a spot in the Junior WRC in 2024, and only 4 seats out of 6 go through. Moving on to Lausitz, the final rally of the year, where everything's on the line almost, you know. Like in Rack, I was also still like pacing myself a bit and learning, keeping the consistency. But here, Germany was like, cool, this is your last shot, you know, you got to give everything you have. And that was such a special feeling, you know. We were just like, just let the dogs out and drive. And eventually I was like really, really getting the pace up, and I was like equaling stage times with the Beater, my one teammate. And we were literally like 0-0. I think we tied 2 stages, which is nutty. Like in rally, it's so mad. But it was great, and we were moving up the ranks, keeping it super, super clean. And actually by the end of the rally, the final stage of the rally was a pretty mad experience, but our main spotlight failed in the 9th stage. And these stages were so fast, you know, like you're almost constantly in 5th gear and winding through a single track road with trees on the side in these German forests. So yeah, it was pretty nuts. Like we were flying through this forest and we hit a big jump, and when we landed, boom, there go the lights. Like that was like maybe a quarter into the stage, and we had to drive the rest of the stage in the darkness, and eventually we were under trees and just basically just going off pace notes. And Cammy, my co-driver, he was like encouraging me, like, okay, you got this, bro, you got this, like keeping the pace up. And we actually went through and we actually set a really good stage time regardless, you know, which was so ballsy. But yeah, getting to the end of that stage was like a relief, but also just such a part of the experience, such a part of rally, you know. Rally is a mad sport where there's so many unknowns, and sometimes you can be thrown an extra one on top of that, you know. So that was one of those moments. But we got through, and we did really well. We came 3rd in the team there and showed like some stage times within a second per kilometer to the top, the fastest Rally 3 drivers.
Obviously, physical fitness is part of the endurance that you need as a rally driver. So he does a lot of running. He also does some boxing. We've got a boxing bag at home. And, you know, that's actually a really good way to stay strong, to put your mind in the game, you know, get hot, sweaty, endurance, keep going even when you're exhausted. That's actually a really good way to stay fit. And he occasionally joins me in a hot yoga class. So, which is like a 38-degree heated room, and it's holding a bunch of poses, and that sweating and that heat in that room and not being able to leave the room for an hour is also a really good way to prep for a hot rally. Yeah, so we can be part of Max's mental fitness. Examples that you've seen is Max throwing balls at 2 different colored cones on the wall. Basically, that teaches him hand-eye coordination. He's got to respond as quickly as he can to the call. You randomize the calls by doing, left, right, blue, orange, and you try and mix it up a little bit so that he can practice timing and just getting better at that.
So at the end of 2023 season, when I was announced that I got the drive for 2024 in the Junior World Rally Championship, that was like a massive moment. I was absolutely so stoked and blown away that like all the hard work that we put in like almost turned around a season that was really going downhill to making all of those mistakes and like the bad moments almost for the better. Because if it wasn't for having those crashes, making those mistakes, I wouldn't have had to put in all that work and do all that training. That is what ultimately actually made me a better driver, a faster driver, a more consistent driver. And then that got me through to the Junior WRC. And the 2024 season actually started in Norway for me, doing a winter training before Rally Sweden. And Rally Sweden is a super unique event. It's ice. You're rallying in the snow and ice. That's the start of the Junior WRC. So to get used to this completely like foreign or like unfamiliar surface, I headed to Norway and I did like a personally funded training program there with my coach Brian and Peter Gwynn. So that was great. We started on those really, really slippery tires, moved our way up to more and more grippy tires, and eventually got to the rally spike tires, which then you have like an abundance of grip and you can really play with the car. You can brake, you can weight transfer, you can drift, you can do all of these things. And so that was a really, really sick experience. And eventually we ended up at John Hongland's winter training school, where we spent one day on a frozen lake and one day in the forests. And John was teaching us through the whole thing. Every morning we'd have briefs and every night. And basically he's known as like one of the pioneers of like ice training. So it was really great. He's trained the greats like Colin McRae and Peter Solberg and all the older gen like rally boys, Then going into Rally Sweden after the recce and thinking about all the training that we've done. And when we got to shakedown in Rally Sweden, instantly I actually felt super, super comfortable and like knew exactly what the car was doing. Then going into stage 1, first stage in the Junior World Championship, first stage at rallying at this level against like an abundance of competition, like 19 other drivers into this event from all over the world. In the very first stage, we placed 8th overall out of these 19 drivers, and I am by far the rawest driver in the whole championship. Before that, I'd only done 4 proper rallies, So it was really, really nutty to set like a time like that on your very first world level stage, So that was a cool moment. Moving through the rally, super crazy conditions. We were rallying through the night, through snowstorms, through like almost literally blizzards. Then like some immaculate stages where you're just drifting through these snowbanks and like linking corners. And eventually by the last stage of the rally, after getting stuck a few times during the rally, but then every time we made a little mistake, the next stage we'd never lose the motivation and we'd just do better and better and better. And we weren't like trying to be the fastest in the rally, we were trying to learn the most. By the final stage of the rally, we actually set a second fastest stage time. We were 0.8 seconds off the stage win on the power stage of the rally. And that was just like such a cool moment because it's like, geez, like I'm raw as it gets, but I'm able to set times up there with the top boys. And that was just such a sick moment. So after Rally Sweden, I headed back to Scotland where I was staying with my coach, working on the farm outside. And we actually had a training workshop in Edinburgh at the University of Edinburgh, working with Elite Sports Performance doing a whole bunch of mental, physical training, as well as goal setting, and looking at it in like a way to get the most out of whatever you're doing, to learn the most, to progress the most, and analyze your performance and that sort of thing. So there's lots of mental stuff, but basically we spent a few days there at the university working in heat chambers and all sorts of things, and reaction tests, brain tests, and it was great. Learned lots, and then the goal from there was actually to carry through that learning to the rest of the year, and the immediate challenge was Rally Croatia. And this was actually going to be my first tarmac rally because of the mishaps that we had in 23. We missed our 2 tarmac rallies. I really wanted to do a tarmac rally before this event because Croatia is known as a really notoriously dirty rally and super tricky, but I actually could not get the funding together to do it. So we get there, we do the pre-event tests, and like in the beginning it's feeling like a bit foreign, but we were getting it, you know, and eventually learning to trust the tarmac and the grip that you have, and working with the driver coach that side. It was really great, you know, like that day was used to the max, and I was also blown away with the speed that you can carry on tarmac, the speed you can carry around longer corners, and just trust the grip of the car. So incredible. And then going into Rally Croatia, it had rained over the recce, and the roads were already known that we knew that it was going to get full of mud, and that the grip levels were going to be super low in the cuts. Wherever there's cuts, which there were pretty much every second corner, the grip would be almost zero. So went into the rally, and first stages was pretty off the pace, but feeling okay, because we were just focusing on learning in this event. It was like the same mindset as Sweden. So we just focused on not really trying to prove anything, but trying to learn the most. Then, going into the first day, we were setting some pretty good stage times throughout the first day. I was quite nervous going into this event because I felt like there was a bit of pressure on it being my first tarmac rally and not being able to do any practice. Then into the second day, I actually had a bit of a struggle there with my nutrition. I forgot one of the most crucial things is like carrying the right nutrition in my car. Towards the end of the second day, I just actually was like a child. I had like no energy because my brain was just burning so much energy in full concentration of everything coming at me so fast on tarmac roads, where it's just like 4 left into 3 right cuts and 2 left over crest into big cut, 4 right, like the notes coming so fast because you can just roll through things really quick on tarmac. Even on the last day, I still could not perform like I usually do, and I was happy to be at the finish line of that one.
I think that this weekend maybe I lacked a bit on the planning of nutrition, and found myself getting a bit tired, and maybe not having the focus that I used to have to be able to, like, every stage move up step by step. So I need to have more of a strategy in my nutrition for the next event. It was just a really mentally demanding event. Every stage, every pass is completely different. The cuts are in different places, and where you have grip and where you don't is like 2 parallel worlds, on what you can do with the car. So you really have to think during this rally. So after finishing 10th in Sweden, then to have a tricky event in Croatia, but regardless of that, finished 7th, due to it being tricky for everyone else. The conditions were tough. So that was great. The position itself was really good. And then next up, we were going to something a little bit more familiar, and that would be gravel, which is what I did all my rallies with in 2023. So going into Sardinia, I was really pumped. Came back to Cape Town, did some training this side, and even rode the motocross bike to get that feeling of the bike and the soil working for me. And went into Sardinia, had a really good pre-event test there, set up the car nicely, and went into the rally with like just good vibes, and felt super prepped. Like the pre-event prep that I did was on like another level. I knew every little bump on the stages. I knew where it would rut up. I knew like where to be careful, or what was a little bit sketchy, what you need a little bit of balls for, And I went into this rally, and like through day 1, we were sitting 6th overall, which was really good. And day 2 was like a tough day for O's because it was like proper rough, hot, cars overheating, punctures, and we just like found such a rhythm, and we were like going through it super nicely and worked up our ranks to finish at the end of the Saturday in 3rd overall, and that was like badass. It just really felt super cool, and it was like another one of those things of like putting in the work and then seeing a return.
And we had fought for that third place. We were fighting with the guy in fourth, and by the end of Saturday, we had almost a 30-second lead on him. It was like 28 seconds. And it was like through the stages, I was just really pushing where I could and where I felt comfortable, and felt like so one with the car that you're just gliding through these stages. Going into Sunday, we had something to fight for though. And I would never have expected that I would have had to push so hard on the Sunday of that rally. But just because this guy that was chasing us from fourth, Peter Borden, he is from Kazakhstan, but he also really wanted it. And on Sunday, I made a wrong tire choice. I went for a hard compound tire instead of the soft. And I was thinking for puncture management, the harder tires generally a bit more sturdy. And the soft tire was working better on the sandier stages that were more towards the coast on the Sunday. And like on the first stage of the day, I think he took 17 seconds out of me. And from there, I was just like, geez, like I really need to wake up. And I just pushed as hard as I could, as hard as the tires could. And I've never had to really push like that ever before. So it was super cool to have that pressure to defend a podium. And through the next stages, we were just minimizing the loss because the tires were not optimal. Plus, Peter was really going for it. Like, respect to him, he was hauling. And by the end of the Sunday, on the final power stage, through the roughest stage that I've probably ever driven, we pushed like crazy and eventually got to the finish line, and were told that we had kept the position. And that was my first ever WRC podium, junior WRC podium. And just such an amazing moment, man. Like one of those moments where it's like dreams come to reality. You know, I've been dreaming of spraying the champagne, and now it had just come to life. Super emotional and most awesome feeling ever. I loved it. So after Sardinia, after the podium, the next challenge was actually huge once again. And that was going to be going to Rally Finland, which is probably the most iconic rally in history, known for its flat-out, fast gravel stages with massive jumps. And just coming from the podium at Sardinia, I also feel like I was maybe putting a little bit of pressure on myself going there. But in the same breath, I also knew that it's, once again, such a unique challenge that you have to respect these Finnish roads. So going into Rally Finland, it was mental. There was a 2-month gap from Sardinia, and getting back into the car in the pre-event test was immediately like, geez, like this is fast. Everything was flat out in 5th gear, big jumps, just proper rallying. So going to Rally Finland, the first day, we were actually we had the most gnarly weather conditions of crazy rainstorms with huge puddles in the road and such heavy rain that you could not see through the windscreen wipers, but yet like everyone was still going flat out. And going through the first day, it was struggling a bit with the grip, with the confidence in the wet conditions, with not seeing much. Eventually, actually, I made a small mistake. I actually put my wheel in a tiny dip. The dip was deeper than I thought, and I had the wheel turned a bit.
Oh, jeez. Oh, that's fucked up.
It snapped my spigot joint on my front left hub, and that actually retired us from the rally because we had no steering then. So we had to pull over and get recovered, and then did a super rally, which is when you start the rally the next day with a heavy time penalty for the stages you missed. Thankfully, we only missed 2 stages, and we had driven them before. So as far as experience goes and learning goes, it was like a limited loss compared to like if we had done that mistake earlier in the day or early in the next day. With this rally still being the goal of just learning, which is what this whole year was about. It went well, and then the second day there was no pressure. It was just basically improve your driving, work on your driving style, and learn how to drive on these really fast Finnish roads. So went in with that mindset and was getting faster and faster, and then eventually on the Saturday we got to a stage called Onnenpoja, which in rally is actually a legendary stage. It's known to even have a spirit of its own, and to drive that stage you turn from boy to man, because it is the craziest thing that I've ever done in my life till this point in time. And you're flying through these Finnish forests. You're in the air half the time for like 50 meters a time in the air, absolutely floating in this car, flat out on the rev limiter everywhere else. Just the most incredible, exhilarating stage which is a pure trust between man, machine, and co-driver. It was absolutely next level. going through the rest of the rally, we kept the progression going and we kept keeping smooth, and we ended up finishing 11th in the rally, so out of the points, you know. But still, the most amazing experience, super fun to drive that car in those conditions. And yeah, just to do Rally Finland has been a bucket list item since before I even knew I'd get into rally.
Yeah, no, honestly, feel really amazing. This rally is incredible, and that last stage, Oyenpoya, just blew my mind. I knew that it was going to be mad. You know, you hear all the rumors, you know, and the Finnish legends speaking about this stage that'll like spiritually change how you like look at rallying as a sport in general. And I thought, so yeah, doing recce, I was like, yeah, this is going to be fast, you know. But when you actually drive it, it is just something else. You know, you are flying and you're on the rev limiter and you're sideways, and then you're sideways the other way, and then big jump, and oh, it's just like, it's incredible.
That's fucking mental, bro. It's just, I can see why people like it.
So then after Finland, we're heading to the final challenge of the year, which was Greece, which is known as a super rough gravel rally with lots of rocks in the road, bedrock coming through when this road gets deteriorated from the cars in front of you. And for me, it was like a bit of a feeling of coming back to something that I'm more comfortable with, similar to Sardinia, similar to Rally Rack, and went into this rally like just wanting to give my all and see what I can do, you know, another trust your talent type of situations. And we went into it, and the pace was really good, the driving was really good, but on the first day we picked up 2 punctures, and in both of them we stopped to change them, and afterwards we got stuck in the dust from the car in front and lost like so much time, lost minutes, and that put us to the back of the leaderboard in this rally. Moving into the next day, we had more punctures, all on the inside of the sidewall, and just didn't actually know where I was getting them because I wasn't hitting things blatantly. But I've thought a lot, and I have an idea now of how I got them, but they were just super freak, and I was like, why am I getting all these punctures? But aside from them, the pace was really, really good. Yeah, I got through this super hot, challenging rally to finish 7th, which was actually pretty good for the amount of punctures we got. And then came 7th in the Junior World Rally Championship this year. Honestly, the most amazing year with this team, which is like a family to me. Learned so much, so many new experiences, and bonding with the teammates, with my co-driver Cam, with my coach, and just honestly like an incredible experience.
It is crazy. I mean, even on the road section back from the last stage, me and Cam were chatting, and I can't believe that I am here, you know. I can't believe that I was here spectating in 2022, you know, after winning the African final of FIA Rally Star to now going through a full junior WRC season and training season last year to be doing this event, you know. And, you know, on the last stage, setting a 3rd fastest time and having good splits, you know, a podium this year, having first experience of rallying on ice, rallying on tarmac, at all these crazy, tough, challenging events. And for the experience that we've had, we've done really well, and we're learning every step of the way and always looking to get better. After this event, there's going to be lots that we can do better, you know. So we'll find out what that is, and we'll make sure that we do it. But honestly, just a huge thank you to FIA Rally Star for believing in my raw talent and bringing me up through last year's training season to now where we are. It's actually incredible, and yeah, I'm proud of the progress that we've made, and I know that there's so much more to come. I want to win the Junior World Rally Championship next year, and I know that I can do it, and that it's going to take hard work, but that is my dream. You want to see something cool, bro? The adventure continues. 2025, let's go, baby.